Welcome back to the nationally recognized Real Estate Radio Network's Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Radio Show on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Make sure to get great information or ask your important questions at donandgino.com. Now, back to your friends, Don and Gino.
It's looking a lot like Christmas. All right, I'll stop there. That's my only Bing impression.
Yeah, thank you.
Holy cow, that's what my wife says. She's like, don't sing. Not one of your talents. So, but we are very talented at bringing you incredible experts sharing with you what you need to know, want to know, and should know about real estate and finance to help guide you to personal and financial wellness. That is the goal of the Don and Gino Show every Thursday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m.
And the best way to do that when you can't sleep at night is go to donandgino.com. There are hours and hours and hours of shows you can watch, and
laugh at.
There's always a little bit of comedy in it.
Well, I'm a walking blooper reel, so that's easy.
You are. It's right on your back usually. It's a dartboard too. I get to throw it at you. So, but donandgino.com, a wealth of information, 2.5 years of information, and transition through the marketplace. You can watch it as it transitions through the shows, and I think that's kind of a nice phenomenon to see the way the economy is recovered.
Yeah, wealth of information. Just make sure you listen to Don, not Gino.
Oh.
Yeah, bet.
It's getting thick in here, boys.
All right, speaking of wealth of knowledge, we have two some of the best experts we have in Santa Cruz that you should be working with. Of course, Mr. Steve Corn, the man of many transactions and many years experience here. Many years. I mean, New Escrow, 50 years. There's not too many companies, especially in Santa Cruz, that have lasted 50 years.
You know what? Think about what our valley looked like 50 years ago. It's quite a thought process, and then to think about where our business, how it functioned 50 years ago, is quite a thought process. And then take it to where we are today, man. It's all kinds of crazy stuff. So I'm grateful to be where I'm at for 25 years of being with the company, and having been in this business and having the fortune to work with great professionals like Mike Kessler and Don and Gino. You know, that's what makes it all work. So.
It is about who you work with. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. It's all depending on how you work or who you work with. You know, it's amazing to me how people that are buying and selling just don't realize how important that really is. And it's not just the agent that you're working with, who needs to be a local person who knows the area.
Huge difference.
Very huge. And it also is really important to make sure that you're using the lenders and the escrow that is local and close by.
Now, okay, let's clarify why that's important, because obviously it could look like you're just, being really nice to Don and Gino at Cherry Creek Mortgage because we're local lenders, and but realistically, what are the chances of you accepting an offer if you don't recognize who the lender is for one of the potential buyers of your seller's home?
Well, remember, it's not up to me to go ahead and accept somebody's offer or to deny somebody's offer, but it is up to me to let the sellers know what's in their best interest. And if we're using a local lender and I recognize the name and I say, I've already worked with this guy 3 or 4 times before, just in the past 6 months, and every single deal that's gone through has been effortless and it's gone seamless, and you don't have to stress, you can get some sleep when you're going through this transaction, they're going to say, wow, I'd rather go with that person than somebody that they don't know that might be from San Francisco or Florida or out of town or even over the hill here.
Or just an internet lender really has no accountability.
They have no accountability. You don't even know if they're working from this country or not. So when we go into internet, you don't even know, they don't know, and there's no accountability. And you need accountability, and that's what we're looking for as a listing agent. So there's been many times where we've had maybe 2 offers, and one offer will actually be a little less, and we'll go with the less offer. We'll give up a little money just to make sure that everything goes together, and you have that clear cut, it's going to close in the time frame that they're promising on the contract.
Well, that's the key point. Because I know you're out there going, well, why should I accept less money?
Well, that's another point, though. You think about who to work with. See, there's no way to learn that lesson until you learn that lesson. And so that's the big part of working with a veteran professional in our valley that understands what's happening. A lot of people drive around here, they got friends who've got friends who are in the business, and they're going to throw a bone to their cousins, down in somewhere in San Clemente, and they don't know nothing about our valley.
They're going to give them 1% back.
Well, whatever we're going to do, but trust me, they end up paying for that double. So
absolutely.
So I just want to emphasize the importance of working with a local team of professionals who understand our valley, who have a commitment to our valley to be the best of the best. They have an ownership situation that involves the reputation in this valley and to do the right thing for the people of this valley. So, when you're considering making a move, either listing your property or buying a piece of property, it's very important to consider who you're going to do business with.
Well, and I think that's especially important here in Santa Clarita. Ultimately, Los Angeles is a bigger place, right? So if you're working in the San Fernando Valley, I think it's a little less important. And if you're in Metro LA, it's a lot less important. I think in Metro LA, you could work with an internet lender, and it's so big that you could get lost in the shuffle. But we all pretty much know each other here. We know who does a good job. We know who doesn't do a good job. We know who closes late on every deal. We know who's having what kind of problem. We know.
We also know who promised to close and then at the very last moment says, "I'm sorry, we just can't fund."
Yeah.
You mean you can't fund? No, I'm sorry, you can't. We can't fund, and the house is not yours anymore. So.
Well, and you're tied to that stress as well, Mike.
Absolutely.
When you're giving advice. But I want to clarify something, because I know if you're out there listening and Mike says, well, sometimes we may accept an offer that's a little less than the other because I trust this lender. You're only doing that not because of just the ease, but the potential cost to the seller. Meaning, if it doesn't close on time, you have to put it back on the market, and overall, it can cost them a lot more than the differences in the offer prices. Now, let alone the headaches and stress that I know personally I would pay tons of money for to just avoid, without a doubt.
Right. Well, and one of the things I think that people tend to overlook is the fact that interest rates are constantly changing. So if you're already locked in at a nice low rate that you just love, but then and you went with this gentleman because he says, "I'm going to get you that interest rate. This is the best you're going to find." And then you get right down to the end, and guess what? You're not going to be able to close. That means if you're not going to close, you got to turn around and you're going to be looking for something else, because maybe the seller says, "Hey, we're going to go with the backup offer. We're going to get rid of you altogether." They can do that if they want to. If that happens and they have to go with a different interest rate, that could be a difference of $40,000-$50,000. We're not talking about a $10,000 or a $5,000 difference. It can be
We've seen
huge.
We did see that when rates went up basically in the mid threes all the way up to almost 5%. A lot of you out there, unfortunately, you saw this happen. We saw the market slow down. We're losing, $50,000 to $80,000 in purchasing price. I mean, if you were looking at homes in let's just say $500,000, now all of a sudden you have to go out with your real estate agent and look at $420,000. Not such an exciting time.
No, as a matter of fact, I haven't experienced a buyer who was purchasing, and they were right about the $1 million mark this past year. And it was amazing. The seller at the very last moment said, I think we're going to hold on to it. We're going to sell it to somebody else. I think we can make a little more money. And that's when I was telling him, you can't do that. If they lose this interest rate, there's a big difference between even a 1 point interest rate change in $1 million. So, you have to lay on them and say, hey, you got to stick with it. You got to stay with it, and make sure you're working with people that can do that.
Right. And Steve, you can attest to this. Just to close this out, because you work with probably more transactions than anyone. You work with various real estate professionals. You work with almost all the lenders at some point. I know when you see a name like Mike Kessler on it, or hopefully Cherry Creek on it, what frame of mind do you get in versus other potentials that could cause? It's not even just the hassles, it's what they have to go through and you have to go through to close their transaction.
There's a lot of indicators that I see that give me a sense of where this deal is going to go as far as trending, being on time, etc. I have a situation right now. I can tell you right now, I've got a lender who's leaning on me for documentation on the 5th business day of a transaction because they're behind the 8 ball, and
that doesn't happen.
No, and so consequently, they're pretending like we're 3 weeks into a transaction and we're in the 5th business day into it with a holiday in between, all that, and I can tell that they've got problems, they've got issues going on, and so they're masking it. But I can see that, I can smell it, and I can feel it.
You know what? You get to see behind the scenes. You see what's going on with the wizard behind the curtain going, they're like, oh, we're on time. Oh, no, they aren't.
Honestly, a quick story. I had a for sale owner buyer come in, and he wanted to use a internet-based lender to get a loan to buy the house, and I basically said, no, not a good idea, and he didn't understand why. After I told him why I was thinking the way I was thinking, referred him to Cherry Creek. You guys not only were competitive, but you beat the price of the internet lender and outperformed them. Okay. Now the buyer turned out to be kind of a squeaky guy.
Well, he actually came back to us. And referred clients to us.
He did. So, but the point is, it's not. You got to just know who you're doing business with, and trust your advisors. When you hire Mike Kessler, listen to what he has to say to you, and trust him, because that's what he does, and he does what he does for a reason, because he's good at it.
Well, and thank you for that. But I want to also say that if you're working with an agent that's here in the Valley, they're going to have their trusted lenders also that they're working with, and that's what they want to do. They want to make sure that this deal is going to go through. They want to make sure that these people are going to get the home that they've looked so hard to find, and they want to make sure that they're working with somebody that is going to come through with everything. There's nothing worse than having to do the work yourself. And I had a case in point where I was telling Steve that they said they want to go with the credit union. And I said, well, what credit union is it? Some oblique, I don't know who they were, but they had a local office here, and came down to the last ninth hour. What is it? And it was amazing. I had to go in and sit down with him and help him do what he was supposed to do. All I did was push him along, but he was going to take another 3 weeks to do it. I said, no, we got about 5 days to get those loan docs out. There's pressure here.
Well, that's why we're going to talk when we come back in just a few minutes, or the final quarter of the Don and Gino Real Estate Finance Show. We're going to talk about the advantages of working with a one-man team versus a huge team, and what kind of service you get with that when we come back to the Don and Gino Real Estate Finance Show. Don't go away.